are not going through a purely academic exercise when we talk about solving problems in our country. And you will notice that as the people who have been helping me and helping in putting the thoughts together, because nobody has a monopoly of ideas. You have to work with others. You have to consult. There's always somebody who has a better idea than you somewhere along the line. So consultation is absolutely important. And these are not the only people who are helping us. There have been others, and they've also been seeking with their research teams to build up what we have been discussing and then trying to bring it down into something that would be tangible. So we want practical approaches to the challenges that are facing Kenya. We want to be able to also answer the question of how. That must be a thread that runs through everything we do. If we say we are going to create jobs, eventually we must answer the question, how? That is what Kenyans will be looking for, how? We must have a thread of accountability running through whatever issues that we are talking about. We must have integration of the various sectors that come up. So, although we have pointed out that we have about 4 agenda items, which they have talked about, they are all intertwined. The economic issue, the governance issue, the transformational issues, the issues around the environment and climate change that is taking place in the globe, these are all intertwined. So I want us to debunk this notion that it is about economic models. We have been killing page after page in our media, several hours on our TV screens and so forth, because we are beginning to argue about models and models and models, making it look like it is a simple academic exercise. The challenges facing Kenya is not about models. Let us diagnose what is there. If we have a diagnosed health as an issue or some challenges in health, let us be surgical, find out what those are, and then think through the process of getting out of those challenges properly. If we are talking about debt, and as an example, I kept on talking about debt much earlier, to the extent that people maybe started saying, is this Mr. Debt? Whenever I appeared. It looked as if it was just a simplistic thing. But now we acknowledge it is, because 70% of the revenue collected is going to pay debt. 70% of what KRA collects is going to pay debt. So what is left for development? Now, if 70% is going to debt, then slowly we enter into a debt trap, because the 30% that we have cannot meet our other needs, meet our other expenditures, pay salaries, and so forth. So again, you go out to seek more debt. Now, public debt will then translate into excessive household debt. Because there is household debt. How does household debt grow? Household debt will grow because you are being taxed more by the government of the day to settle external debt. So ile pesa mfukoni, which you're supposed to have, is diminishing. And your household debt is growing. Your poverty levels are growing. So these are the issues that we need to arrest. And we can only arrest them from a holistic approach. We must rationalize public expenditure. We can't do everything at the same time, at a go. We will have to make very tough decisions going forward. Some austerity measures will have to come into place. These are the issues that must come out. And I have been propagating the issue of the economy, and when I pushed it, the truth of the matter is that the competitors in the field have all jumped onto it. Sometimes it's important, if people don't give you the credit, sometimes you must blow your own trumpet, because nobody will blow it for you. Because the reality of the matter here is that we started talking about economic issues earlier than any of the political competitors today. Now, when we say uchumi bora, pesa mfukoni, now somebody comes up with a hashtag and says uchumi mashinani. When you talk of something else, you can see an element of plagiarism beginning to play into this discussion. So let us be very careful. Let us not dwell on what are perceived as economic models. Let us create stability. Let us get people to vote wisely. And then let the institutions that are supposed to function appropriately. I am sitting here with several members of parliament. We want to tackle corruption as a nation. But if you allocate to the Auditor General 3 billion shillings, you then allocate to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption 3 billion shillings. You allocate to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution 3 billion shillings. You allocate to the Asset Recovery and Money Laundering entities 1 billion shillings. You then allocate 18 billion shillings to the judiciary. You then allocate about 6 billion to DCI. And then you allocate 47 billion to Parliament. Then you tell them, let us fight corruption. How is the Auditor General going to provide timely and accurate reports, not only of the national government, but for the 47 counties that we have? And over and above that, the parastatals. So, what am I saying here? Can we rationalize our expenditure programs, our resource allocation arrangements as a nation? That does not require a model. That requires us being practical and putting resources where we shall have the appropriate return, either in the delivery of justice or the provision of service, or provide better facilities in one way or the other. We must ask ourselves, COVID or no COVID, why have we lost 2 million subscribers or contributors to NHIF in the last 1 year? Why is it a situation where the person who's contributing to NHIF can no longer afford to pay what he or she was supposed to pay so that she can get medical attention? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves as a nation. That is what I'm appealing to you as Kenyans, that let us focus. Let us break away from this personality-based politics. I remind people of 2 great politicians in this country. One was Dr. Zachary Onyonka, may his soul rest in peace. And another was a Nairobi politician, a friend of mine called David Mwenje. Very interesting. When you go to the Hansard in Parliament, you will see what Zakari Onyonka would talk about in terms of what we ought to do as a nation to revamp our economy, to create jobs. When you went to the Hansard, very huge contributions. When it came to him being covered by members of the Fourth Estate who are here, he would barely get a paragraph. Then David Mwenje, who would come in and enter with a tiff with the speaker, would get the headline, but what Zakari Onyonka had said vanishes. So I'm bringing this together so that at the end of the day, I want to appeal to a very important player in directing the economic recovery and revival of this nation to put their best foot forward, and that is the Fourth Estate, the media. I want you to put your best foot forward in getting the right discourse in this country so that we can make informed decisions, so that we can vote right. Let us get things right. Ask us the how question. How do I intend to finance these programs? Is it realistic? Do you want to increase the tax burden on Mama Mboga? Do you want to increase the tax burden on the small businessman? What is making people angry? Globally, sharing of a container. Is it the less than, they call it LSM, I think there's some importers here, where our people in Gikomba would be able to share a container in terms of what they bring. Just repeat that? CVM. CVM. Now, why would you then create a policy that denies that small person the opportunity to pool together? Kenya had a very strong cooperative movement. What is the cooperative movement all about? It's all about pooling together. So you make business difficult for them. Now, do you expect them to want to vote for you? These are some of the fundamentals that I say we don't require models. We require dialogue, listening to the people who are doing business, talking to them, understanding their challenges, and finding collective solutions. This is the message that we need to drive home. I was in Treasury for some time. I know a government desires to look for quick collection of revenue, and the target is usually where it pinches most. Energy sector, petroleum products. That is where we go for maybe 50% or even 70% of your costs, energy costs, and nothing but taxes. How are you going to become competitive? If you have big manufacturers here, when you profile the cost of a unit of a kilowatt hour of electricity, it's very expensive in Kenya. Why? How are we going to compete? All the power purchase agreements that the Kenya Power entered into that have made power costly, I'm happy at least there's a review going through it. But these are issues that we can correct by making sure that we open renegotiation in some of those areas. Until you make the cost of power affordable, you are going to render all our manufacturers uncompetitive. About 40% of production costs in manufacturing is the cost of energy. We have to address these things. This is not about models. This is about being realistic, practical, diagnose, and find solutions. So we are offering you, as ANC, a team, a desire, a conviction that we will be ready to dialogue with Kenyans, all sectors, small or big, farmer or non-farmer, pastoralist or non-pastoralist, male and female, young and old, so that we can find appropriate solutions and we can put enough resources in all our areas that require attention. Education, the health sector, the manufacturing. We must leverage on technology. The digital space is becoming big, very big, maybe close to, in a very short while, it will be hitting the $5 trillion billion-dollar industry or beyond. So these are areas, if we leverage, we will provide opportunities, we will create the jobs that our people want. Then we can have a broad economy and we will lower taxes. It is not about additional tax. Can we bring into the fold new taxpayers? More young and energetic people getting jobs, bring them into the tax bracket, and in the process we can now have a threshold that will lower taxes, not introduce additional taxes. KRA has been driving us out of town. It is driving Mama Mboga out of business. It is driving the transport sector into a lot of hide and seek games. Even auctioneers are being auctioned. That's the reality. You ask me how, I'll tell you how. The auctioneer has auctioned everybody. All the goods are in warehouses. There's nobody to buy those goods at auctions. The auctioneer now is being told to pay rent because you have warehoused. The auctioneer cannot pay rent because there are no buyers of the goods. And therefore the auctioneer is now under auction. So these, to me, are the challenges that we face. And those are the sentiments that are out there. And don't be cheated. Don't be cheated. As much as our society is what it is, there's a very educated generation out there. A new generation that is educated. And if we approach things the traditional way, it's not going to work. Chebukati told us that since 2017 he has registered only about 140,000 new registered voters, but the Register of Persons has issued an additional 5 million identity cards. And if he goes through the mass registration process that they will be doing, it will mean that somewhere along the line, there will be an additional 5 million voters. Out there. And let me tell you, as much as my profile is good, as much as I fought and liberalized the economy, let me tell you, those 5 million voters that are going to come into the voters register are not going to be interested in that. To them, they'll be interested in pesa fukoni. That is what they'll be looking for. They'll be looking at people who will create jobs and be able to have, give them sufficient disposable income. That is what they're going to be looking for. So we as a nation must prepare ourselves for that. That is what is going to change things. That is what is going to create stability. But I'm telling you, if you tell them that I fought for independence, they will not remember. They'll tell you if you were there at that time, you would have done exactly the same thing. So this is the reality that we are living into. So let's just, as I conclude, let me just say, let us help Kenyans focus on the right issues. The fourth estate, you are a critical player. Extremely critical. Don't let Kenyans down. Be inquisitive. Ask us the right questions. Don't just go with a script. This is the time to help Kenya make the right decisions. Our foreign policy and what have you, it must be directed. One of the presenters talked about it. We must move away from the traditional way of saying this is our commercial attaché. How can you redirect that person so that he can be used to attract direct investment into Kenya, and at the same time create proper markets and open up new markets for the Kenyans where he is based. And targets may have to be set for those embassies so that you can see there is some performance. Are you getting value for money? These are the issues. We talked about education a few days ago. The double intake that is looming as we transition from the competency, from the 844 to the competency-based system. The double intake that will climax in 2023 and 2024 is a very serious matter. And it touches the family. And if we don't have enough resources at that time to put on the table to allow our children to get the quality education that is desired, you will have created an environment that can lead to civil unrest. So we must start preparing, reorganizing ourselves so that resources can be allocated and facilities can be put out there. The Ministry of Education just released 4.2 billion shillings for infrastructure. If a classroom is worth 1 million or 1.2 million, then you're saying that they've only expanded, they'll only be able to expand about 3,000 additional classes. But how many million children are out there? That must be. This thing will need to be financed. And it's not about models. It's about making pragmatic and realistic decisions and rationalizing our expenditure as a nation so that we get the maximum output out of the resources that we have. We will have to move away rapidly from expensive loans. Go for concessional funding. We will have to be more innovative. Go for public-private partnerships. Create the right environment for the private sector to grow. Let's not make regulation obstruction. Regulation must be supportive. It must not be obstructionist. These are critical issues, and we can do it. Let's get these things right. And I'm offering you my services so that we can get these things right. Kwa hivyo, tushikane mikono. Whether it is in sports and what have you, let's make all these income generating centers for our people, for our young. I conclude by reminding people I'm a fan of Manchester United. I don't know how I found myself there, but I think I was encouraged by my family members who are also fans there. But when it comes to slogans, nobody beats the Liverpool slogan. What does it say? You shall never walk alone. Never walk alone. I'm telling Kenyans that this country needs us to walk together. We should not allow anybody to walk alone. If you want to make recovery, if you want to go forward more consolidated, let us walk together, hand in hand, finding common solutions to our challenges. It can be done. But right now, you know me, and you know what I stand for. And I'll continue speaking to some of these issues, time and again, on the economic matters and other issues. But we must maintain a unity of purpose. We must be honest. We must communicate the truth and nothing but the truth. Let us move away from rumor mongering. Let us move away from, even if I'm not your favorite candidate, come 2022, but I hope I will be. But even if I'm not your favorite candidate, let us not engage in falsehoods against others. Let us speak things as they are. I know propaganda is a political tool, but you must also be intelligent in the way you bring out the propaganda. Sometimes you can bring out propaganda until everybody says it's no longer propaganda, but those are the rantings of a sycophant. Because it ceases to make any sense. So as we go ahead, let us move ahead. We value criticism and all that, but let us move ahead. Kenya ni yetu, na tuijenge pamoja. Uchumi bora na pesa mfukoni. Uchumi bora na pesa mfukoni.